What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Diggers podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera, and of course, as soon as I click go live, Michelle Magdziuk pops into the chat. What's up, Michelle?
Hi, I'm sorry.
What happened?
I washed my hair yesterday and then I put it up like a loser last night and then it wasn't working today. So, yeah, this is what we got. I'm
A
sorry.
hair issue.
Yeah,
A
that
hair
literally.
issue.
You sent me the link about 90 seconds ago. All right. So I
Yep.
was waiting for the link and then I went and ran and tried to fix my hair, but it didn't work. So this is what we get. It's just a big knot up there. But I do have a mimosa.
Shocking.
Woo!
I know one thing you weren't going to have a problem with, and that was having a mimosa.
Hey, I haven't
today's
had one for
show.
like a month on this show.
Wow. All right. That's a little depressing. Not going to lie. We're going to get into top targets for the 49ers in free agency on today's show because the legal tampering starts Monday, which you know what that means. It means right now, agents and teams are negotiating contracts with players because come Monday, as soon as the gate opens, we're going to have like 3 or 4 big contracts finalized magically.
Oh, 100%. I love that it's the tampering spot. And then literally it's like a good 2 minutes into it there. And you figured out the entire contract. And so
Right.
Yeah, I don't really know why they even play these games because there's no reason for these rules if no one follows them.
Right. First, it was we didn't have the legal tampering period, and then the new league year would start, and they'd announce all the rules. And then they were like, okay, fine, we'll have a legal tampering period. And it was like, nope, all you've done is just push back the actual start of when the contracts are coming out. But that's fine. I love it. It's going to be great. Next week is going to be so much fun. And the Niners can get involved in this if they want to. Now, they've got to do some maneuvering. They're probably going to restructure Trent Williams. I know Jesse Niner says, can they cut Trent Williams or restructure his contract and build for the future? You're not cutting Trent Williams because he's awesome, but you can definitely restructure his contract and save some money, which the 49ers are going to do. If they sign Brandon Aiyuk to a long-term contract, you can lower his cap number. You can restructure and or cut Kyle Juszczyk, lower his cap number. So if the Niners want to make a splash, there's a way to do it.
I love free agency so much. And this is the thing. We're just talking about how it's so crazy that these teams, sign people in 2 minutes. But if it does go like 5 minutes without a signing, I'm like, do something. Like NFL does something. But yeah, I was listening to you and Levin on yesterday's podcast, and you're saying it could go either way. They can make a big splash like they did last year. Or just sign a bunch of guys that are okay starters and kind of band-aids for the next year because they have such a good core already. They may go that route. That's not the fun way to go, but I do at least hope they spend a little bit on upgrading their offensive line. I think that's where they need to focus on. They need to pay some money to fix their right tackle and their guards, really.
Yeah, I mean, really anywhere on the offensive line that's not Trent Williams. Pick your, roll the dice and whatever you happen to come up with. Center, guard, tackle, I'd be happy with any of them. I'd be happy with multiple, to be honest with you. But
Did you know that Spencer Burford graded out with a 28.3 pass blocking grade by PFF this past year? No one else had worse than a 42. No other guard had worse than a 42 grade. He had 28.3.
That's crazy low. Yeah. I don't think Brock Purdy got nearly enough credit for dealing with the just Swiss cheese offensive line outside of Trent Williams that he had.
Honestly, because like in the middle of the year and even as we're getting to the playoffs, we're like, this line kind of held itself together. But Brock Purdy just must have made them look so much better than they actually were when you go back and look at what they were allowing and how many pressures they allowed. Colton McKivitz allowed 47 pressures on 573 pass blocking snaps. He had the 4th worst pass blocking grade among all tackles. And I just brought up Spencer Burford. Aaron Banks also graded out terribly. I'm shocked by how great Brock Purdy performed. And then also it's not just him, right? Kyle Shanahan kind of covers up some of these issues as well. They really need to upgrade here all across the line.
Absolutely. And to that point, King Josser, I don't know how to say that, but let me know in the chat. I apologize because you're a YouTube channel member, so I should figure that out. But King says, yo, Stats and Michelle, what do you think about the Niners signing Mike Onwenu and draft a corner at 31 and then draft a left tackle to study under Trent? Onwenu is a guy a lot of Niners content creators have talked about. He's one of the targets I think they should go after. He's an upgrade over Colton McKivitz, as you just laid out. So Onwenu last year allowed 3 sacks and 23 pressures. Colton McKivitz, as you said, allowed 47 pressures. So, like, even that alone is
Very comparable snaps too for pass blocks. The Onwenu, that's a hard name to say. Not gonna lie. He had like 70 fewer snaps, but still 23 pressures compared to 47 for Colton McKivitz. I would love this signing. It's really nice too that he does play the right tackle position. So he's not changing sides. You don't have to worry about that. He has the experience there. He even had some experience this past year playing right guard.
Yes.
So he could do both if you need him in a pinch to play guard. I would still super young, 26 years old, entering his 5th NFL season. I think this would be an amazing signing for them.
King Joser. Sorry. Thank you for clearing that up. I agree with you. And this is my theme because he's one of my 3 targets that I have for the 49ers in free agency today. Ascending players. Yeah, you can go out and sign a veteran guy, and that's fine because this team's in a win now mode. So if that's the cherry on the sundae, great. But if you can sign guys that are on their way up, guys that you're going to pay for what they will do with you, not what they have done for somebody else, I think that is the key. The age, you nailed it. I would be totally on board with this. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I hope so because even addressing one of these needs, tackle, guard, defensive line, corner, I just feel like it gives you so much more flexibility in the first round of the draft in April. And that's what I want. I want John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan to have options.
And you could try to draft guard later in the draft. Like, you don't have to use your first round pick on a guard. You can find them in the 2nd and 3rd. I mean, I know that's what they've tried to do with Aaron Banks. And then what Spencer Burford was the 4th or 5th. But I mean, he started all year, right? So you can find these guys to at least give them competition. There's really not a ton of guards I love in this free agency, but there is a center. If they did want to upgrade at center, Lloyd Cushenberry, I think he would be a nice addition to this team. 26 years old. He ranked 3rd among centers in PFF, just pass block grade, not overall. But he allowed 14 pressures this past year, 3rd fewest among centers with 500 plus snaps, behind only Ryan Kelly and Jason Kelsey, 2 really, really good centers. So I think I don't know if they could afford both of these guys. I don't know what they're going to cost because they are 2 of the better ones at their position out there. But at the same time, right tackles and centers, they don't get paid all that much money. So these are 2 guys that's not like would be breaking the bank for them.
And, don't get caught up in the whole, like, well, I don't know who that guy is. Like, don't worry about that, right? How many of us knew who Charvarius Ward was before he signed with the 49ers or knew who Laken Tomlinson was before they traded with them? But they were really good players for this team. Obviously, Ward still is. Like, don't get caught up in the names. There's a lot of names out there. Like Josina Anderson said, Odell Beckham Jr., the Niners are a top 5 landing spot. No, I don't want Odell Beckham Jr. I know the name, but he's old and washed now, so I don't want him. So don't get caught up if they do pursue a guy like Onwenu. I think that's how you say his name. But
yeah, it is. It's
who we had no idea who he is. Like, don't worry about that part.
Yeah. And I'll say, when I saw the OBJ thing where you had it listed, like, should OBJ be a 49er? I rolled my eyes because I thought you were going to say you wanted him. And I was like, oh my goodness, no, there's nothing that would excite me about OBJ coming to the 49ers. So I was happy when you said to 11, like, no, we don't want that. OBJ's washed. He's donezo.
Oh, ye of little faith. You really thought I want Odell Beckham?
You did last year.
He was off the field. We got more information now. He was off the field for 50% of the snaps. Like, the Ravens were just like, we don't even want you on the field.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson won the MVP, and Odell Beckham Jr. was not really a part of that, frankly. Like, he wasn't. Like, we're not getting Giants Odell Beckham Jr., but I feel like that's what people think of when they think of him. But it's been a long time since he was that guy. He has 100-yard games since 2019. One.
I actually did think at moments last year he looked pretty solid and fast, but there's something there that the Ravens didn't want to use him. Like, I mean, how many places now does he have to go to? The Browns. I guess the Rams did end up using him in the playoffs, but he wasn't utilized that much until those playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Ravens, it's like, okay, teams are letting him leave. They don't want him. It's saying something.
Heineman on Twitch says, would not surprise me if Kyle traded Aiyuk and signed Odell Beckham Jr. That's a terrible decision. You don't trade the younger, healthier guy for the older, broken down. No, I really hope you're wrong about that one.
Bad.
Randy watching on YouTube says, any thoughts about taking a run at Jason Kelsey? I mean, he just retired. That'd have to be a hell of a pitch.
I think his heart and loyalty would stay with the Eagles. If he plays, he's playing with the Eagles. If he ends up coming out of retirement.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably still own his rights. I don't know what his contract status is. I mean, look, a phone call doesn't cost you anything, right? You might as well make a phone call, but I don't think that's happening.
No. Does he have any ties to San Francisco that would pull his heartstrings?
Not that I know of. Antonio, YouTube channel member, says, "Yo, Stats, haven't been able to tune into the shows live lately, but still love the content. Keep it up. We need you for the off season." Look, you don't need me for the off season's rolling, man. We're gonna have big contracts announced. We've seen a couple already. Jalen Johnson just got paid by the Bears, which is frustrating because he's really good. I would have loved to see the Niners sign him if they could have. I hate the franchise tag. All it does is prevent free agency from being more fun. So like the top free agents never actually hit the market because they just get tagged.
I know, like every good free agent got tagged. It was just like right at the last second too. They just all came flying and it's like tag. It's like, all right, well, that kind of watered down the free agency, but I'm still so excited for it.
There are still a bunch of good players out there. I want to get to another target. This is the one I texted you about, which was totally out of the blue. Blake Cashman. I know everybody's like, who the hell is Blake Cashman? He's a linebacker for the Texans. The Niners need a linebacker. Even if Dre Greenlaw was fully healthy, they need a linebacker. But obviously he's not. He's coming off the Achilles. Blake Cashman, I heard about this from Mina Kimes' podcast. She's the one that brought this up. And then the more I looked into it, the more I was like, what a shock. Mina's correct. He allowed the fourth lowest passer rating when he was the closest defender last year. Who allowed the first? Fred Warner. That would be a pretty nice combination if you're the 49ers. Plus, he's 27 years old, so he fits into that ascending model that I talked about. And he knows the system already because he played with D'Amico Ryans in Houston. So to me, all of those things say, if you can get Blake Cashman, sign me up. He fits a need. He's young, and you already know he fits the system. That's a winner for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because what took him, 5 years in the league to play like at all. He really just didn't play games. Like it started one game 2022, one game in 2021, one game in 2020. So this was really the first year he got to play, and he did. I mean, he graded out wonderfully with PFF at least. I didn't really notice him on the field. I don't know. He played 655 total snaps, like not a ton. And again, this was his first year playing. So maybe just a small sample size. We have to go off of him with that passer rating allowed with the defensive grade for his whole entire 5-year career. We're going off of this, 600 snap size. A little bit worried about that, but they do need linebacker. They do need to add a linebacker, but wouldn't you much rather just bring in Azeez Al-Shaair, who already has played with this team? We know he's good. He had a career high in tackles this past year with the Titans. So why not bring him back?
And he's younger too. Azeez is 26. I think Azeez is going to be too expensive. What you just told me, Michelle, small sample size. You're telling me he's going to be undervalued. You're telling me he has less tread on the tire than somebody that's played as many years in the league. That you're making my argument for me. Sign me up. Let's go. But yes, I would take either one of those guys. I didn't include Azeez just because that's a no-brainer. Like people already know that, so I wanted to give them something. But either one would be good. But I think Blake's going to be cheaper. So that's why I went with him over Azeez.
Yeah, he definitely will be cheaper. I just don't know if he'll be good out there. That's my only word.
Why are you poo-pooing? You're very quick to put. I'm
not poo-pooing. There's upside with him. I like it. It's just risky, but he will be extremely, extremely cheap. I'll say I just sent out a 240-page packet for free agents, right? So every free agent you can think of, and Blake Cashman was not in our packet, so he's going to be very, very cheap.
Awesome. Great signing. That's beautiful. And for anyone who doesn't know, Michelle is a researcher for NFL Network. So when she says she sent out a packet, she's literally talking about everybody at NFL Network. Well, maybe, your packet's incomplete. Maybe you should have added
I know. You got me all worried. I was like, oh, shoot. Should I have had him in here? Because I was the one that led this project. So it's kind of my fault. Is 100% my fault. I kept him out. Now I'm worried. I might have to add him before Monday. We'll see.
See, there you go. Someone's going to email back. Where's Blake Cashman? What are you doing? Fire that Michelle.
He did start 13 games this past year.
There you go. Okay. Another free agent target for the 49ers. We did the offensive lineman already. We did Blake Cashman. Bryce Huff from the Jets. This one I feel like is far less controversial. But another guy, Michelle, who's been in the league for a couple years, but didn't really have a breakout year until last year. He had 10 sacks for the Jets. He was a holdover from the Adam Gase era. So this was not like a Robert Saleh pick. Obviously, he stuck around, which I give guys credit too. If you can stick around through multiple administrations, so to speak, multiple head coaches, that to me tells you you're a good player. That's one of the things I always give Eric Armstead credit for sticking around through all these coaches that he's had. That's not nothing, because coaches generally like to clear everybody out and bring in their own people. So if they examine you and they keep you around, that to me is a little impressive. Breece Hall fits that. He had a 79.7. Bryce Huff, sorry. Yeah, Breece Hall, my bad. Too many B's and Bryces and Breeces with the Jets. 79.7 PFF grade last year. Not much against the run, but he can rush the passer. And that's all they want. D Ford wasn't good against the run when he was here, but they have been chasing that guy ever since D Ford. And maybe Bryce Huff could be that guy.
Yeah, he had 10 sacks and he didn't play all that much. I mean, compared to like the top guys in the league with the sack leaders, only played 481 total snaps, 334 times he rushed the quarterback. So, and he was very, very efficient. So he actually led the league in quarterback pressure rate among all guys with 300 pass rush attempts. This is according to Next Gen stats at 21.8%. Second was Parsons at 21.3. Third was Josh Allen from the Jaguars. And fourth was Trey Hendrickson. All really good players. His get off time is so fast, like how fast you can get off the line. Fifth in the league behind like Myles Garrett, Hendrickson, Nick Bosa, and then Josh Sweat. And then it's him, Bryce Huff. So very athletic guy. And again, just like Blake Cashman, it is a smaller sample size, but I think what Huff has shown is a little bit more impressive and at a more important position. And he is that rotational guy, but maybe if he was given a bigger role, he could even be better. Or you keep him as a rotational guy with Drake Jackson, with whoever else you bring in. And you need those guys as well. So I would really like this Bryce Huff signing.
25 years old too. The only thing that surprises me, like, why are the Jets letting him go? That seems really weird to me. Maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't want him around. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers runs everything with the friggin' Jets. But I don't care. Like, to me, absolutely. This is the kind of guy you should be signing, the guy that he can contribute more than 1 year. You have a need. You literally need bodies on that defensive line. Cleveland Farrell's a free agent. Chase Young is a free agent. Randy Gregory's a free agent. That might be need one for me. That might be my first call if I was Kyle and John.
And you know what? There's a different Houston guy on defense that I like more than Blake Cashman. It's Jonathan Greenard. Greenard. I don't know. These are hard last names, apparently. It looks like it should be Greenyard, but there's no Y. So Greenard. But again, a guy that just broke out this year. He's 26 years old. He was in the final year of his rookie deal. He had the fourth highest sack rate in the league, according to Next Gen stats, behind only Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, and Josh Allen. So, like, he really stepped up his game this year. He had 12 and a half sacks under Ryan's, like you said. So a similar defensive system there. And he's also one of those really athletic guys that can get to the quarterback super fast. So I think I'd rather call for him than Cashman, but maybe you can, call for both.
Would you rather have him or Huff?
I'm fine with either. They're very similar to me, and guys that can be great rotational pieces. And then maybe if they're given more opportunity, they can even be better than that.
I would be fine with that. And that's another thing too. Like, you have to go into this, if you're the 49ers, with your list, option A, option B, option C, because you're not going to be able to just get option A all the time. And that's part of this sort of dance that the 49ers have to do. You have to figure out your targets. You have to go after your targets, but you have to make the decision of how long can we wait on a guy? Are we being used just to drive up the price for some other team? Like, you got to figure out whether you have a realistic shot at somebody. And then if you don't, you got to move on to option B and option C.
They definitely need to find edge rushers, though. Like, this is a huge need for them. Farrell and Young, both free agents. And definitely don't go re-sign Young. Like, I think you let him walk. Maybe Cleveland Farrell you bring back. He was decent enough if he wants to come back cheap. Like, that's cool. But I mean, you can't just have Drake Jackson and pretty much no one else. I mean, who else would be there in that group that you feel good about, right? So they need to add some bodies here, and I think they need to upgrade from Drake Jackson, so it can't just be nobodies that you're bringing in for a couple $1,000,000. They should pay up a little bit for this position.
I saw a great tweet yesterday that I put in 49ers in 5 from Eric Branch of the San Francisco Chronicle. And of course, now I can't find it when I want to put it on the screen. But, oh, there it is. Okay. So between Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, and Javon Hargrave, the 49ers have $58 million on their defensive line just from those 3 players. That is more than any other team's entire defensive line. That's how this 49ers roster is constructed. So I think it would frustrate some people to say, what are you telling me? You got to go out in free agency and sign another defensive lineman? We just did that last year. But yeah, they do.
They really need another edge across from Nick Bosa. That's just a glaring weakness right now. I mean, I think the offensive line is the most important part. Probably, I mean, right now, safety too, with Hufanga coming off an ACL tear, Gibson being a free agent. Like there's quite a few holes right now that the team has to figure out how they want to prioritize these positions. Offensive line, I do think number one, that's where they have to spend their money. Where would you put edge then? Because it's probably offensive line and then safety and then edge. Is that how you'd have it?
Well, so Levin and I talked about this. The Niners, primarily under Shanahan and Lynch, have built their team starting with the defensive line, built their defense. That's where they have invested everything. That's where they think their whole defense flows. That's how the entire defense was constructed. Pressure with 4, take it easy on the secondary. But now I'm starting to wonder if they're realizing they just don't call holding penalties in the biggest games of the year. So our defensive line, no matter how good they are, can get neutralized. And if that's the case, then it's not wise to keep investing so much into that defensive line. Maybe we need to invest in the secondary on defense. So I almost wonder if they are going to switch it up a little bit. You say they need a safety. The safety market right now is insane. There's all pros of everywhere. You can't take 2 steps without tripping over a free agent all pro safety right now.
Now that, yeah, if you need a safety, this is a great time to need one. Do you think they bring back Gibson just to have depth there? I mean, he's been really, really good, actually, but he's going to be 34 years old. Do you think they re-sign him and then also bring in, a guy that maybe has more upside and more youth that they can have for the long haul?
Well, here's the thing. He might retire. I would love to have him back and make him the backup. For me, my plan, let's roll with Hufanga and Jair Brown next year at safety. Like I want to see that combination.
You want to roll with Jair Brown? Okay.
Why? What is it about Jair Brown that you don't like?
So you're not going to you don't want the 49ers to spend up then for a safety?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I don't.
They wouldn't even have to really necessarily spend up because there's so many guys out there. I mean, there's a couple of them that are going to get paid, like Justin Simmons and Byard. Like they'll get their money. But there's also, Xavier McKinney and Aloha Gilman. Like there's some really good players out there that can come in, I think, be an instant upgrade to Jair Brown. I know like maybe he can grow and get better. And he was fine. He really was. He impressed me. But I think there's other options out there. Even Ashton Davis from the Jets, I think would be a really nice signing as well. I think I would prefer them to upgrade.
Jair Brown had a 77.9 overall rating from PFF, 74.5 in coverage as a rookie who didn't really play a lot until the, later in the year. I was excited about him when he was drafted and you poo-pooed it. And I've been telling you, I'm excited about it. And when he played,
you don't want them to sign a safety then?
Oh, no. Ideally, Gibson comes back as a bench player, but if I'm him, I'm like, I'll just retire. Like, I don't want to bash my head in if I'm not even going to start. By the way, You Wish watching on YouTube says, is that alcohol? Yes, it is. You Wish. Mimosa Michelle has alcohol on this Friday morning, in case you were wondering. Heineman on Twitch says, maybe sign Quandre Diggs. Sorensen coached him in Seattle. To me, like, why pay? You already have 2 guys that have played well. Hufanga was an all-pro. Like we talked about, Jair Brown, I think certainly played well enough to be in the discussion. So that is not necessarily where I have a hole, as opposed to linebacker where I need somebody, defensive line where I need somebody, nickel corner where I definitely need somebody. So if I'm spending money, it's going to be on one of those spots over safety.
I just think they can use an upgrade. Use an upgrade. Especially, you don't know how Hufanga is gonna, recover from that ACL tear.
True.
I don't think you
Yeah.
can just go into the season with Hufanga and Brown and feel good about that as your two guys that you're leaning on for the year. I would rather it. I'd rather Brown still be a backup. He can get snaps. It's not like just because you're not the starter that you don't get any snaps at center. Like he'll still come in and some packages. He'll get his playing time. He deserves it. But Xavier McKinney would be such a nice add. 91.2 coverage grade last year, highest among safeties. I think that's just, he's still young. He's 24 years old. I actually didn't realize he was that young. He turns 25 on August 9th, but he was drafted highly because he was a talented prospect. He's shown he's talented in the league, and he's still so young. And I don't think he's going to cost the amount that we're talking about with Justin Simmons and those guys. It'll be a tier below that. I don't think he's going to be this crazy, highly expensive guy.
I saw an article from Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports today before we hit record. And part of the article was basically like, why are all these really good safeties getting released? And the article is essentially that guys aren't throwing the ball deep anymore. That the last 4 years, the league has seen less than 8 passes per game travel 20 plus yards down the field. So you don't really need to have 2 really good safeties. You can kind of get by with, less expensive guys who are just kind of league average players. And so I think that teams are looking at it like, if we don't have to worry about, these guys covering deep down the field, we'll just draft somebody, pay them no money, and then when their contract's up, we'll let them walk and just replace them in the draft.
Maybe. The stats with the Broncos with Justin Simmons playing and not are pretty drastic, but maybe it just happened to be, a terrible time for them. But those 2 weeks without Justin Simmons compared to the rest of the year are pretty drastic. And maybe it's just a coincidence.
I mean, he's a good player. It's I don't mean to knock him specifically. I think that the league in general is trending towards, you got to decide. Building your roster is like a Rubik's Cube. You can't only move one part of it. Every single thing you do to that Rubik's Cube affects one of the squares, at least one, on the other side of the Rubik's Cube. That's what it's like to build a roster. So every dollar I give to safeties is a dollar I can't give to corners or linebackers or running backs or whoever. And so I think teams are looking at it right now like these other positions affect the game more right now. Now, eventually, if teams keep building their teams this way, there will be an offense that starts chucking the ball deep down the field. But right now, I think that's where it's going. So I would not want to go safety, even though, like we said, I mean, literally, it's like every day guys make the all-pro team and then just get cut. And they're like, what the hell?
I have a question for you. So would you rather sign a guy like Xavier McKinney, who's proven to be really good and really young, or a cornerback like Darius Williams, who was just cut from the Jaguars to save it, just was about salary cap to save money? He's been really good as well. Allowed the second lowest passer rating in primary coverage last year. So actually since 2020, not even just last year. And he had the 4th highest coverage grade in PFF last year. So he's been really solid corner. But he's also 30. He's turning 31 years old in like a couple days, actually, March 15th. So would you rather go with the older corner, but that would be a really solid addition for this team, or go for the younger safety at a position that you don't care about as much?
I would go for the older corner, especially because they have tried at nickel to get somebody to lock this down. And
he's not a nickel. That's where he's actually really bad at. But he has to be outside.
Well, that's fine, because then you move Lenore to the nickel like they did this year, and then he can focus on the nickel. He doesn't have to worry about bouncing in and out. But if something did happen to Williams or Ward, that Lenore can actually do that. That's why it's great to have Deommodore Lenore, super flexible. But I would be okay, because you got to lock that friggin' position down, man. I'm tired of seeing Ambry Thomas just flailing out there when the ball is in the air, or Isaiah Oliver, who lost his job before the season even began. He was signed to be the nickel corner, and before the season even began, Kyle Shanahan said he's not a guaranteed starter. It was like, what?
Well, We saw why, because anytime he was out there, you were like, "Oh my goodness, he's
Yeah.
not on anybody. Why is nobody on this guy?" And then the camera pans over to Oliver trying to catch up, and you're like, "Oh, that's why."
God, that's so bad. I think he allowed a perfect passer rating in coverage this year from the nickel. Like, just absolutely
Kenny
brutal.
Moore's out there. He has played a ton of slot corner, has 13 interceptions out of the slot since 2017, by far the most in the league during that span. No one else has more than 8. So 5 more than anyone else. So he's a playmaker, and he has a ton of experience playing the slot coming from Indy. Not a terrible idea for Kenny Moore.
I don't hate it. I would like
Get
to
away
see
with this Kwan. No, he was terrible. He was garbage. Get out of here.
Kwan Williams, JCG 1987. That's another thing, right? Like, oh, we liked him when he was here. He wasn't terrible when he was
I
here.
did not like him when he was here, and he was terrible.
Okay.
Is he even on a team?
I don't know, but like
It's
that's
just like that. That's just like the other safety you guys wanted to keep. He's not even in the NFL anymore.
Oh, Tart.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were the one banging the drum against Tart, and I was like, okay. I was a little nervous, and then after you basically just unloaded on the guy, completely undressed Jaquan.
Now no team wants him because he's not good.
Yeah, and Jimmy Ward. I mean, we've moved on from Tart and Ward. A lot of people,
Ward was actually good.
Yes, he was. But a lot of people were very hesitant to move off of both of those, and you were like, Ward is okay, but Tart stinks. Don't worry about it. You have very strong opinions on players. That's why I love it, Michelle. That's why I just come in with the hammer, just boom. Lock it down.
Players, I mean, they're just, sometimes the 49ers overrate their players. 49ers fans overrate the players.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree. I'm just looking on Twitter really quick. Jake Bailey, the punter, is getting a 2-year deal. That's breaking news right now as we do the show. Did you have any other free agent targets for the 49ers?
I think we hit on all of them. I mentioned Alohi Gilman from the Chargers, 26 years old. He allowed the 5th. He had the 5th highest coverage grade this past year among safeties. He had a career high tackles, passes defense, interceptions, forced fumbles this past year. So another ascending player. Don't mind him. He'll probably come pretty cheap as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's very good.
You know who I don't want is Jonah Williams. And I feel like the 49ers are going to look at him. And I feel like 49ers fans might want him too because he's a bigger name. He was drafted early. He was supposed to be like amazing, and he's been nothing but a disappointment. I don't think he's going to be paid too much for what he is. No to Jonah Williams, tackle.
Wow. Okay. That's the other thing too. I feel like any offensive line signing the 49ers make, people are going to be like, yay, he's got to be better than Colton McKivitz or Spencer Burford. It's like, not necessarily.
He's allowed 41 pressures, 43, 42 over the last 3 years. Just every year. Now he does play a ton of pass blocking snaps because the Bengals, pass so much. But still, it's a lot of pressures. A lot of pressures.
Mr. J says, bring back Tart just to bother Michelle.
You'd have to pick him up off his couch because that's where he's been for the last year and a half.
Hey, they picked up Logan Ryan off of a Disney cruise. So apparently it's not something that they are going to be opposed to doing. Lee Ving says, is Azeez Al-Shire going to price us out? I think he will. If the only way they get him, I think, is if he wants to come back, which I saw him in the pregame huddle during, before one of the playoff games. Like, you don't do that if you don't love those guys. So maybe he's willing to take a little less, but I think that's the only way they get him is if he says, I don't need
What do you think he's going to cost? I don't think he's going to be too expensive.
I think he's going to have teams bidding on him.
Linebackers, inside linebackers don't make a lot to begin with. And I don't know that many people outside of 49ers Nation and Titans, country are like that knowledgeable about Azeez Al-Shire.
Well, fans might not be, but I would hope that people in the NFL should know about him.
It's pretty wild what players in the NFL don't know, and even coaches. I mean, we just heard that one coach that was the DB coach for the Chiefs. He didn't even know Brandon Aiyuk's name.
Oh, Merritt. Yeah, he was
like, you don't even know. They know their numbers.
They know the number.
Names. Yeah.
Yep. They're just like 11, 19, whatever. Yeah. Here we go. CSL in the casino says, Michelle, do you want to cut the best fullback in the NFL in his prime and use the money to sign the 75th best corner?
I do not.
I do.
Want to keep Juice. I know that you really want to cut him for whatever reason. I would like to keep Juice.
Why? Why?
He's really good.
He was
He's
off
really
the
good.
field more than he was on the field
And
last
he's a
year.
leader. Like, you don't cut those guys.
He's a leader. Thanks for telling the world that you didn't know the overtime rules, Juice. That was a solid leadership
Didn't like
step.
every player on the 49ers say that? That was embarrassing.
He's the one that started it, because once he said it, then they started asking everybody. He's a friggin' fullback, and he's going to make $1 bazillion, and he was off the field more than he was on the field. He had, 19 touches, I think, in the regular season this year? Get the hell out of here. He's in the prime of his career. He's a fullback.
Let me ask you, if he went to the Ravens, would you not be a little bit worried about that?
Nope, wouldn't care at all. Adios, Juice. If you want to play for $2 million, great. We'll pay you $2 million. Otherwise, don't let the door hit you in the way out. People acting like the 49ers offense is going to crumble because number 44 is not in the backfield. What are we going to do without our fullback? What every other team in the league does, basically. Give me a break.
He's really, really good.
$7 million he's going to get as a fullback.
He's also a good pass catcher, too, when they use him. I mean,
if they wanted to, they could put Jordan Mason. Tell Jordan Mason to be a fullback next year. He'd be almost as good. Give me a break.
No, he would not.
Give me a break with this. Like, people acting like Kyle Juszczyk is this unbelievable facet of the 49ers offense. They needed him in 2017 when they had nobody, when they were running a gadget offense. All right. It's not that anymore. The offense has evolved beyond him. That's why Kyle Shanahan stuck his ass on the sideline for the majority of plays last year. But he's coach's buddy, so he'll be back.
But maybe he'll take a pay cut. Probably not.
He better take a pay cut. He has to. He has to.
Would you take one if you were an NFL player? I wouldn't.
No. But I wouldn't blame him if he said no, by the way. That's his right. And every player should get as much as they can, just not from the 49ers. Go play for somebody else. Oh, that's right. Nobody in the league uses your position except for like 2 other teams. Stop it. Kyle Juszczyk.
You're so mean to him.
Oh, my God. Because it's not even him. It's the way that people reacted to when I said he's overpaid. They were acting like, he's out there throwing passes and touching the ball 80 times a year.
How much does the second fullback make? I'm just interested. Probably way less than him, but do you know?
Oh, it's way less. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I bet it's probably Ricard in Baltimore, though. I can try and look.
I'll look. We keep talking.
When they signed him, they blew the fullback market out of it. It was the highest any fullback had ever gotten. And then when he got another deal, I think he did it again. It's way higher than any other fullback. Let's see. I'm seeing highest paid position. They don't even have fullback listed in the. Oh, there it is.
Ricard is second for cap hit. Cap hit for Juice is at 7.6, and then Ricard is at 5.1, and then some guys at 4 million. It's not that crazy different, but a couple million more.
A couple million more.
His
than
base salary is only 1.7 million more than Ricard.
Yeah, no, thank you. Get out of here. Unless you want to play for $2 million, you play for somebody else.
Well, he's not going to play for $2 million when all these guys are making 3 to 4. It would be you're saving
that's all the
$3
money.
million, basically.
That's all the money we have for you, Juice. You're a fullback. Get the hell out. Fullback is like heated seats in a car. If you can afford to get the heated seats, great. But if I'm trying to save any money whatsoever, they're the first thing to go.
They're pretty nice, though.
Oh, the heated seats, yeah, they are nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. Now they have the cooled seats, too, so you could do both. That's pretty good. B-Mill's nice. Exactly. Especially if you have leather seats. B-Mills 1987 says, Michelle has been the best free agent signing for this network. I completely agree.
Woo woo. Who am I? Am I the Trent Williams of free agency signings?
Wow. Now you're really putting me on the spot. Well, he wasn't a signing. They traded for Trent Williams.
See, now I'm already failing. You give me a compliment and I'm falling apart. I can't handle compliments.
So the only reason that I even knew about you is because I used to work at SB Nation with your wife, Kate, and she and I did a show together. And I was like, wow, you're really good. Hey, Kate, do you happen to know of any other women podcasters? Because I'm looking for somebody for my network. And she was like, well, my wife. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's how I literally met you.
Yeah, I was really nervous to meet you because I used to listen to you all the time on the Mike Florio pod. I was
on Pro Football Talk.
Yeah, I thought you were like this scary guy, but you weren't.
Gee, thanks. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. By the way,
now we're besties.
Yo, yeah, we're besties. All right. I didn't mention this last week. I should have mentioned this last week because Michelle and I had a recent text exchange that I wanted to mention on the show. You think that you were like 15 years younger than me. You think that like we are such a difference in age. And when I told you that we are in fact both millennials, you didn't believe it. You thought I was like part of the greatest generation.
I thought you were part of the Gen X.
I am not.
I
I
thought I was an
am
old millennial, but it turns out I'm a young millennial. So I
right.
just didn't know the years.
It all started because I tried to type the word stars, but my phone kept autocorrecting it to stats. And so I kept trying to do it and it kept saying stats. And so I was like, damn it. And you called me drunky. And then I was like confused. And you were like, oh, I'm making fun of your text errors. We are clearly not texting compatible, you wrote. I think our age difference shows when texting. Millennials can't handle short responses like okay or sure or anything like that. We have too much anxiety. It will ruin our day. And then I responded, I am a millennial. And then you've like forced me to look it up to prove it.
Listen, you're close on the edge. You're close on the edge. You're almost, you act like a Gen X.
Millennials are 81 to 96. I was born in 85. I am well within the range, Michelle.
Yeah, whatever. I have been seeing, to get back to football, because this is what people are here for. I have been seeing comments asking me about Russell Wilson and how I feel about that he's coming.
Oh, I was going to get to that. Yep.
It's so hard because Kenny Pickett is so incredibly bad that bringing in anyone makes me excited and gives me hope. And Russell Wilson should come very, very cheap. So if they're trading for him and paying that contract, I would be all the way out and miserable. But if he does come very cheap because the Broncos are paying so much, I'll give him a chance to show that maybe it was just the Broncos that were a disaster and not so much just him. But it's not thrilling. But it's better than Kenny Pickett. It's better than Kenny Pickett.
This reeks to me of Mike Tomlin trying to avoid the losing season. Like this is a 9-win move.
9-10. But he does. I will say Russell Wilson gives you a much better chance to win a playoff game than what we've had. So I do think Russell Wilson is a baller, and he still has it in him. And I mean, this past year, he had like 26 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions. His stats were not bad at all. He was throwing to Cortland Sutton and really nobody else. Jerry Jeudy is straight garbage. They don't have a tight end. The Tim Patrick got, tore his ACL like immediately. Did he? I think it was in the offseason he tore it. And then they refused to use Marvin Mims. They never put him out in the field. I don't know why. That made no sense. Every time he touched the ball, he scored a 90-yard touchdown, but they were like, no, we don't want that. That's too good. So I will say there's still hope for Russell Wilson that he can go back to not what he was in his prime, but still be a solid quarterback.
Nick Ellert, YouTube channel member, which, by the way, if you want to be a channel member, it's less than $3 a month. It's a great way to support the channel. Please consider it. Nick says, Michelle says Niner fans overrate players, and now she's talking up Russell Wilson.
Guys, my life as a Steelers fan is miserable. The Steelers are miserable. I have to talk them up, at least in the offseason. It's the only thing I have, all right? Once it gets in season, I'll be crying again and be miserable. But, I mean, you can't lie. I mean, you can't argue that Russell Wilson is more exciting and an upgrade to Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, although there was a point last season where you were talking up Kenny Pickett. You were like, oh, maybe.
No, prior to week 1, because he looked good in the preseason and the Steelers fooled me. And then immediately once week 1 happened, I went right back to hating Kenny Pickett.
There was, by the way, so Russ met with the Giants.
You look like you have no arms, by the way. Your long sleeve shirt under your vest matches identical to the wall behind you.
I do have arms.
There you go.
I just want to say for the record, thanks for that. The Russ free agency tour, he stopped to visit the Giants, and then he flew out of Newark and he was going to Pittsburgh. So maybe the Giants will outbid your Steelers and save them from themselves.
Well, I mean, Russell gets to pick where he wants to go, right? And
right.
I don't think the Giants would be a number 1 spot for him, having to deal with the Daniel Jones stuff and then also no good weapons. I also think Mike Tomlin wins over players. He's a player's coach. Anytime you ask a player what's a coach you'd want to play for, they always name Mike Tomlin. Like, he's always up there. So
True.
I think Mike Tomlin, if they want Russell Wilson, if the Steelers want Russell Wilson, I think Russell Wilson will be a Steeler. It just comes down to, do the Steelers want to move on from Kenny Pickett or not?
I
And
would not
please,
be
God, hope they do.
I would not be shocked if Russ wanted to play in New York, in the big market. You know, he's going to get endorsement deals. He'll do all the shows, all that stuff. I'm just saying. I
Will
hope it.
he if he sucks?
He'll be
It's not like
okay.
Daniel Jones gets endorsement deals and all this
Daniel
stuff.
Jones. Russell Wilson's better than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is terrible.
Yeah, but
Oh
who's
my
he
goodness.
gonna be passing to?
We got breaking news on the show.
No! Oh, this is bad news,
Oh
guys.
my goodness.
Oh, no.
Breaking news on the show. I can't believe this is a real thing. I'm not making this up. This just happened according to Ian Rappaport. Well, actually, according to his agency. Colton McKivitz gets a 1-year extension with the 49ers for $7 million. 65% of that is fully guaranteed, Michelle. I can't believe this just happened.
So
What?
is he really going to be the right tackle next year?
That's my question. Does this mean that they're good with Colton McKivitz?
If they're going to give him all that money and guarantee, what do you say, 65% of it?
65%.
Oh my gosh, they could have used that money on somebody else. That's so gross. Again, if you missed the beginning of the show, he allowed 47 pressures last year on just 573 pass blocking attempts. 47.
That's the weird thing.
He had the fourth worst pass blocking grade among tackles last year. Gross.
And
Gross.
why
did they not watch him in this? And that's not even counting that wasn't even counting the playoff games. If I added those playoff games, I'm sure it's even way worse because that Super Bowl was miserable for him. Oh my gosh.
I mean, maybe they are going to say he's the swing tackle and maybe he's not necessarily the starting quarterback, but man, I don't know why you would do this. Maybe to lower the cap hit, I suppose. I mean, he had a $3.6 million cap number. So what is 65%?
How does that lower it if he's at 1 year, $7 million? It would just be $7 million cap hit.
No, because they can make it a bonus. And
oh my gosh. If they really do void years for Colton McKivitz.
4.55 is 65% of 7 million. So 4.55 million is guaranteed. Look, we need more information, but I don't know why you would just be in a rush to this is a team that cut Colton McKivitz at one point.
Nobody was going to try. He wasn't even a free agent, but what was the rush? I don't get it.
I mean, look, I'm sure it's like I said, the roster is a Rubik's Cube, right? I'm sure it's part of one of many things the Niners are going to do with their roster. Because look, maybe this is maybe we're going to see some news today. Maybe it's Colton McKivitz gets a new deal, restructure Trent Williams, do this. Maybe they're lining things up to make a move next week when free agency begins.
Yeah, maybe. They better still bring in a tackle. Colton McKivitz cannot be your tackle next year.
He can't be. And he certainly can't be unquestioned. There's nothing about his performance that says to you he's locked it down over there.
If he is a swing tackle, then that's fine because he has experience. I mean, it's not good, but I don't know. It just seems a little pricey.
Jam 18 says moving him to center, maybe. I don't know how much experience he has at center. I know he also has experience at guard. Maybe they're planning on signing a tackle and moving him to guard. I still don't know why you needed to give him more money. I'm sure it's a cap move. I'm sure they've structured this out to lower the cap number. But that is a thing that happened. And again, I know the reaction in the chat was mostly swears, but consider this as part of many moves. One chapter in a story of the offseason.
Yeah, I wonder if we're just going to the Bills we just got on yesterday, right? Was it yesterday or the day before? It was move after move after move after move, working with their cap space, figuring out. I mean, they cut a lot of people, but also restructured Von Miller. Maybe today's the day that the 49ers start making a bunch of moves with the restructuring to try to get ready for free agency. Way to wait to the very last second, though.
I'm just checking Niners Twitter. No one has any more details. He signed through the 2025 season.
Could there be any surprise cuts on this team?
Well, Mike Silver had an article a couple of weeks ago that was basically the Niners are, looking at veterans and making hard decisions. The only problem is you can't really, the surprise cuts would be massive cap hits unless they're cut after June 1st, unless they're designated to be post June 1st cuts. Juice to me would be the biggest one, right? That would surprise most people.
I guess. But what is that really going to save? The money that you just spent on freaking Colton McKivitz.
So if you were to cut Kyle Juszczyk with a post June 1 designation, you'd save $6 million. It's a lot of money, man. And again, we're talking about a fullback. That would be the one, quote unquote, surprise. I don't see any other like surprise cuts. Most of the other guys, like Chase Young is a free agent, Randy Gregg, like guys' contracts are up anyway. The only other question would be like Jawan Jennings, right? Restricted free agent. The Niners could put a second round tender on him. And then if another team signed him, then they would get the right of first refusal. So then Colton McKivitz can go out and try and find a deal. If somebody makes an offer, the Niners could choose to match it. Or if they don't match it, they would get a second round pick back in return. If you do that, to me, it's a win-win because you either end up keeping Jawan Jennings or you get a second round pick for him. So I'd sign for that.
Someone said in the chat, cutting Deebo after June 1st would save $18 million. Deebo is too important to this offense. And I know I said that 49ers fans overrate their players, but they so underrate Deebo.
Oh, I don't think so. But they're not going to cut him.
No. But if you think Brandon, so the rumors this week, I don't know if they're true or not, that, they might explore trading Brandon Aiyuk if they can't get an extension done, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's just normal rumors that come out when a guy's asking for an extension. Mm-hmm. Do you think if he were to get traded that it would be like right around now with free agency, or do you think it would not come until night 1 of the draft?
I don't think it's going to come till night 1 of the draft because I think in order for him to get traded, teams are going to say, well, let me look at the wide receivers in free agency. Let me see how the draft is falling. Like he might not get traded till day 2 of the draft, right? And
the wide receivers in free agency are looking kind of really gross, though, now that Mike Evans was re-signed, Pittman and Higgins were both franchise tagged. Your top guy is Calvin Ridley, which fine, that's a fine guy. And then the next one is Marquise Brown and like Tyler Boyd and OBJ. Like this free agency market for wide receivers is disgusting, though. So the 49ers could trade him for a solid chunk back.
I think that's how it would go. I wouldn't be stunned if that, like, especially that first night of the draft, teams love having that be its own thing because what they all do after round 1 is like, okay, we know who's gone. We know who's available. We've already had free agency. So like we kind of have a decent picture of what our roster is going to look like. Then a team might be like, look, we've missed out on all these receivers. Free agency's done. Plus those guys weren't that good. If we give up a draft pick for Aiyuk, it's not going to hurt us till 2025 anyway, more than, well, I guess you can give up like a day 2 pick, but even that, you're not sweating that out if you're another team. So I think that's when it might happen, but I think he's going to be back. I think he's coming back unless they get blown away, which I don't think is going to happen.
So you think they're giving him the extension, or he's just going to have to pay and be sad without it?
They'll get him an extension because it'll lower his cap number. Daza 0187 says this offense is better without Deebo. Think of all the catches that could go to Kittle or BA. Deebo has 2 to 3 good games a year now. I kind of agree.
So does Aiyuk. This is my thing. You can say that, but the numbers with and without Deebo on the field, just on the field at any point of the game, are massively different in the bad way, right? Deebo, when he's on the field, he helps out the team so much in the run game and the passing game, and Purdy's stats are so much better, and then the team's running stats are so much better with just Deebo on the field. When you do that same exact thing with Brandon Aiyuk, the stats get better with him off the field. That's just, I don't know how else to say that. Like when you look, I know everything's not just stats, but when you look at the stats with Brandon Aiyuk off the field, things get better, and with Deebo off the field, things get so much worse.
That's because when Deebo is on the field, Kyle has the whole game plan centered around him. And then if Deebo goes off the field, Kyle has no backup plan. He admitted it. Like,
okay, so how does that help you then to move on from Deebo?
Because you'll know ahead of time that he's not going to be there. That's the difference. You'll be able to plan for it. When he left that Packers game, Kyle was like, we had a whole bunch of plays we just couldn't run because they were only there for Deebo. So it was like, what the hell are we doing here? I think the offense could easily survive not having Deebo Samuel. I do. He's a really good player, but he's got limitations. But I don't think that's going to be a thing. I don't think they're moving on from Deebo. Valerie, thank you so much for this massive super chat. This is my favorite show of the week. Thank you.
You are my favorite listener of the week.
Right.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Valerie.
We appreciate that.
You know how many bottles of mimosas I can? I'm just kidding.
That's true. I'm just seeing tweets about Colton McKivitz. McKivitz is now signed for the 2 seasons at under 11 mil total in terms of cap hit. McKivitz, nothing earth shattering there. Not like this super chat. Thank you very much, Valerie. There's one other thing we should get to before we go, and that is the Niners made an addition to their coaching staff. News came out early this morning. Mick Lombardi, former Raiders offensive coordinator, is being added to the Niners coaching staff. We don't know what his role is going to be. I feel like the Niners haven't really announced anything. They're going to make one announcement when everything is settled, I think. Like, here is our coaching staff, because they haven't even announced Nick Sorensen and Brandon Staley yet. I have no idea what Mick Lombardi does. He's bounced around a lot of teams. He started with the 49ers in 2013 with Jim Harbaugh as a coach's assistant. Then he became an offensive assistant. Then he became a defensive assistant. Then he became a quality control coach. He went to the Patriots. He was there for a little while. I have no idea what this means, but it is a thing that happened.
I do know Brandon Staley being added as assistant coach is barf. Really.
You hate Brandon Staley.
I do. I hate him so much.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I was so excited to get hired as a defensive coordinator. I texted you. I said, "No, Brandon Staley," and you're like, "Ooh, I think you missed the part where he was hired as assistant coach." And I'm like, "No." Yeah, I hate it. But at least he's not DC, I guess.
Oh, I don't know why. Like,
he's so bad. He's incredibly bad.
Why? As a head coach, yes. Not as a coordinator.
Well, now he's not a coordinator now. He's an assistant head coach. And now he's also going to be helping Kyle Shanahan, who's bad at making decisions, make decisions when he was fired because he's so bad at making decisions.
Well, that's what I want to know. I do want to know, like, what are you doing here, Brandon? Like, what are your actual responsibilities? Because if he's all on the defensive side of the ball, great. I would love for him to get Kyle Shanahan to go for it more on 4th down, because Kyle absolutely needs to. I don't know what he's going to be doing. I want to find out. I have a lot of questions about that. And unfortunately, I don't think we are going to find out until the league meetings, which March 24th are the league meetings. So I'm sure Shanahan and Lynch will speak from there, but it's going to be a while before we hear from them.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know what he's going to do. I want to, like, they're just like, I feel like hiring just random folks to all these random roles, but good for them.
By the way, Mick Lombardi's father is Michael Lombardi, who has ties to Mike Shanahan, Kyle's father. So I'm not saying it's a nepotism thing, but it could be a nepotism thing. We can't rule that out.
Most coaching hires.
True. Dale says, please go after Mike Onwenu. Sorry, I got to remember his last name. Onwenu. A lot of people want him from the Patriots. Yeah. We talked about him early in the show if you were just hopping in. Gut says we are not improving the O-line now, though. No, I don't think the Colton McKivitz thing means like that they're not going to make any improvements. It's not that. It's not like he signed a $60 million deal. It's a 1-year extension. So, they could still do plenty on the O-line.
Onwenu is still my number one guy that I want the 49ers to sign.
All right. He's your number. I didn't know that. He's your number one guy.
Yeah. Yes.
Ooh. Okay. I like that. Like we said, free agency starts Monday. The legal tampering period starts Monday, so there'll be plenty of 49ers news. We could get more 49ers news today. If anything huge happens, I will pop back in. I'll do another live show, so don't worry about that. That's why you got to like and subscribe to the channel and click the little bell so you'll get notified every single time we go live, which is every single weekday for you. And Michelle, 49ers Media Madness is coming back this year. Our bracket is going to come out for the 2nd straight year. We are expanding the field. 64 people will be in the Media Madness tournament this year. I'm so excited. If there's somebody you want to nominate, hit me up on Twitter at StatsOnFire. I will add them to the tournament. I think I have the field finalized, but if I see a big push for somebody that's not in, I'm happy to make changes. But it's coming back, baby. I can't wait. I'm winning it this year.
I got destroyed last year. Destroyed by whoever I went against.
Did you?
It's okay.
Well, yeah, you were newer last year.
Yeah. And unless there's people, listening to us on this pod, I'm not a well-known 49ers person.
Well, now you are. Although, I got to tell you, I think Eric Crocker is still the favorite. He's last year's champion. Hyman says Croc MVP. I don't know anybody that dislikes Eric Crocker, so he's probably a favorite. But we'll see. I just want to go further than 11. I may have purposely stacked the deck so that happens. I'm not.
Oh,
Gonna
I do think I
confirm or
went
deny
against
that.
Levin in the first round. I beat him, and he was very, very sad.
Well, there you go. See, you're
Can you put me against him again? Let's do it. We did miss one super chat though from JCG.
Oh,
And
my
he
bad.
said, the reason this team sucks without Deebo is that Kyle plugs in Ray to be Deebo instead of game planning for Aiyuk, CMC, Kittle, force Kyle to forget. Yeah, but Kyle's also extremely stubborn. So will he be able to figure this out without Deebo? I don't know. And we haven't seen it. So I don't want to mess with that. And then also, I mean, yeah, plugging in Ray shows you it's not easy just to find another Deebo for this offense. Like, it's not going to be an easy task. It'd be much easier to find another Aiyuk.
You don't need another Deebo. You don't need another, like, you just need, how
He's
about
so
having,
good.
how about having 2 wide receivers that could get themselves open? Imagine
This
that.
offense is so good because of how they are. Why do you want to change it? This offense is fantastic.
I think Deebo is a declining player.
He's like 27.
Yeah, I know. He every other year he shows up out of shape. All the stuff
So do we all. Stats,
all the
right?
stuff that got Aiyuk in the doghouse, Deebo does. Yet he never gets in trouble for it. If I were Aiyuk, that would tick me off to no end.
No, Deebo does need to stay in shape a bit better.
Stay in shape. Dude, you're the highest paid receiver on the team. What do you got to worry about you coming into camp in shape? He's hurt all the time. He struggles against man coverage. Like, damn. What are we so desperate to hang on to here?
He's really not that expensive though for a wide receiver. I mean, wide receivers right now are getting paid crazy money. Brandon Aiyuk's going to get paid probably $8 million more than him a year. Maybe more than that. So, I mean, Deebo's contract right now is looking pretty nice for what he does.
Not for me. I would not be upset at all if this was the last year that Deebo Samuel was with the 49ers. I think that it'll be different. It will have to change, which scares a lot of people. And I get that. Change is always scary, but I think it can change and I think it should change, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, that is the news as we hear it, as we see it. Michelle, have a great weekend. What do you got planned for this weekend? Anything?
I have the latest kickball games of all time tonight. They start at 8:30 and 9:30. Like, my bedtime is 9:30. So, but I'll be playing kickball at 8:30 and 9:30 tonight.
Here's how you know Michelle is young and I'm old. Every time I say, what do you have going on tonight on Friday? She's never like, we're just watching Netflix and chilling. You always have something. It was a half marathon 2 weeks ago. Now you're playing kickball. I don't know. Next week you'll be on like some sort of
pickleball is my new thing too. So I'll play some pickleball this week.
See, you always have something going on. Anyway, enjoy your Friday and your weekend, everybody. We'll talk next week.